Welcome to Meet the Candidate. And my guest for this session is Andy Rathbun. Andy is a candidate for Spokane City Council, District 3, Position 1. Welcome, Andy.
Yeah, well, thank you, Sue Lani, for having me on today, and this is a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah, well, it gets you an opportunity to get a first interview out of the way.
Yep.
We start with really easy questions. Where did you grow up and go to school?
Well, I grew up in Richland. I moved there in 1975 when my dad transferred there for his job at Hanford. So I went to Richland High School, graduated from there, and went right on to Washington State University, where I got involved in Air Force ROTC, and I got my degree, Bachelor's of Science in Physical Sciences. It was pre-med degrees, but I never used it because I wanted to go into the Air Force. I was commissioned as second lieutenant immediately upon graduation, and then I went on to flight school. I became a navigator in the United States Air Force, and I did well enough in flight school to get my first choice, first space assignment, which was Fairchild. And I've been lucky enough to be there my entire career of almost 32 years.
Really? That
Yes.
hardly ever happens.
And so, even though I've been all over the world and all over the United States, I've been firmly grounded in Spokane. My wife Melody and I have raised 3 daughters. They're all married now, the house, and they actually all have children as well, so we have 3 grandchildren already.
Grandchildren are a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
So growing up then, what kinds of non-school activities did you participate in that kind of helped shape who you are?
I worked mostly.
Okay, so I'll ask you about your first job
I mean,
then. Tell me about your work experience then.
Well, I started off as a young kid with a paper knocking on, and back when we had to actually collect money.
Yeah, they don't let you do
and
that
knock on
anymore, yeah.
doors, and yeah, so that was. But my first real job, besides the newspaper and mowing lawns and babysitting, was I worked at McDonald's, and I got in high school. I worked there for over 3 years, and I guess I'll never forget their motto was, "If you have time to lean, you have time to clean." So I've always taken that to heart. I'm always doing something. That led on to when I went to Washington State University. I got a good job at the dining hall at the dormitory that I lived at. And for the entire time I was there, during the school year, I worked as a head cook's assistant. So I was cooking at the dining hall. So I cooked my way through school. In the summer times, I would go back to Kansas. My grandfather had a road construction company, so I made really good money in the summer times and got to live for free, living with my grandparents and just bank all the money. So between the road construction and working the dining hall in the school year, I was able to get through college without taking on any student loan debt. So that was very uplifting for me to begin with.
Yeah, that's a good. That makes for a good start.
Mm-hmm.
So, with the Air Force, I suspect you didn't get to stay just at Fairchild. There must have been some TDY assignments. Is there any place you've traveled that's had a particular impact on you?
Yeah, I've literally been all over the world fighting all the campaigns and all the humanitarian efforts for over 30 years. I've flown over almost 11,000 hours in the air, which is a lot for an Air Force career. But I had a class in college at Washington State. It was so it was an art history class. It was studying all the art and architecture of the European Renaissance. And when I took it at the time, I was in science and engineering, and I just thought it was the worst class because it was just looking at slides, pictures, and then
they were actual slides at the time.
Yes, 2 by 2.
Yeah.
In fact, to review the slides, you had to go in the evenings to the foyer of the big auditorium, and they had them all backlit, so you can look at the little slides and review your notes, and it was pure memorization and then regurgitation for the test. And I just thought, I'm never going to use this. Well, in my career, as I found out, once I started traveling the world, that absolutely, I think, was my most important class that I ever took. Because I've actually seen in person all the great art and museums and all the villages and the cathedrals. And because I was active duty in the military, I could ride Space A hops. I took my family, all my daughters. We made several trips to Europe Germany, France, and Italy. So I've been able to pass that on to my daughters. They've seen all the great art and architecture in Europe, and that's just a priceless gift to be able to give your kids.
I am teaching a survey course like that in architecture at WSU now. So
oh, really?
I'm glad to know that. Maybe some of those students will appreciate me.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. It was like, I've used that class more than any other class, and because of that knowledge comes right back to me, and it gives you the appreciation of what you're looking at. And I was able to share that with my buddies that I was flying with when we were on trips, and then my family as well.
Oh, that's really cool. That's a cool story. So part of this is what prompted you, with a great background, a comfortable life here, why volunteer to run for elected office?
Well, to start out, I mean, I was in scouting. I was in long enough to attain the rank of Eagle Scout, and that program instilled in me very much concern for community service and helping your neighbors. And all my time, when I bought my first house in West Central, I got involved immediately doing the Block Watch program and establishing that and knocking on doors and talking to all my neighbors and getting everybody to communicate, because we did have a crime problem that we were working to solve. And then shortly after that, there was a earth-shattering event that happened in West Central when two little girls, Rebecca West and Nikki Woods, were abducted, and then their bodies were found over in Riverside State Park. And that made our community uprise. We needed something done. We can't have this happen again. We need more police. And I was part of a grassroots effort that that worked out of the West Central Community Center, and we talked with City Council, and I interviewed before City Council. We talked with the police chief, Terry Magnan, at the time, and got them to come around to our form of thinking that we don't need police just driving around in cars. We need to have somebody that's in the neighborhood, like a beat cop. And he actually went along with us, and with the help of Bob Leip, who had a building that was not being used at the time, he donated that to the city, and that became the first community-oriented policing station, Cops West. Okay. So I was very involved in that. My involvement there led to me getting onto the board of directors of the West Central Community Center. And I was on that for over 24 years, and about 20 of those years I was the vice president, and I was very instrumental in helping to build the facility to what it is today with the expansion project. 15 years ago we doubled the footprint of that building, and I was involved with all the fundraising and the planning, and then saw through the construction to the end. And I've also been involved in the neighborhood council as chair and vice chair for the West Central community.
Okay, so this looks like a logical next step then.
This would be a logical next step. I'm looking forward to not just representing West Central, but all the Northwest neighborhoods.
Okay, well, I've got the last bit of time reserved for you to give your pitch to explain how you see the duties of a council member, and why should people vote for Andy Rathbun for Spokane City Council?
Well, that is the question. I've been doing a lot of doorbelling. I've already doorbelled to about 800 homes. And the people that I talk with...
It's only June 12th. So.
Yes. And the people I talk with, each one is like a mini interview. And there's just so many answers. But if I had to boil it down to one thing, like a bumper sticker, I'd say safety first for Spokane. We absolutely need to... with the talking to whether we need to improve the safety of the downtown, absolutely. And I would be no nonsense, down to basics, without politics type of a person. And before I would vote on anything, I would consider does this make Spokane safer? And I'm concerned with all the people and how it affects their daily lives, and we've invested too much into Spokane to go backwards and play with politics. I want to get back to the basics and do the business of the city.
Okay, that sounds like a good wrap up, and Andy, I'm glad you could come in today, and thank you for your conversation.
Thank you.
Thank